Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skyler Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial champion, Sean Court-Martail. And welcome one and all to another edition of the Court-Martail Podcast live here on a Monday night opposite a different program, but that's irrelevant when you're talking to me. I am your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty, here to give you the breakdown, the lowdown, the great grounds of all the reactions that I had and Skyler has eventually. I'm not sure where he is right now, but he will be here eventually. At least as far as I know, as the word as I have heard. And until that time, I'm going to give you my reactions up until he joins in. I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him a couple minutes, but of course, time schedules are what they are. And it is a live show, so popping on at any moment is not a problem. So here I am, here in the Colonial Dungeon, wearing a fantastically pink polo here in the dead of the summer for the biggest party of the summer, Summerslam 2021. Overall, I thought the show was good. Honestly, I thought the show was good. The wrestling was honestly not the problem on this show for the most part. The booking was, you get pretty much a little bit of drizzling shits, a little bit of in the middle, and a little bit of really good on pretty much every WWE show. But thankfully, this show was a little bit more consistent, I guess the word would be, as far as the overall, everything mostly made sense booking-wise, but there are trends on this, and you're going to have to bear with me here because I have one fantastic notepad of notes that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 pages of material to go through, and I'm going to have to rip and tear through this as we wait for Skyler to hop along News Bomb. And anyway, so here we go. We begin with, by the way, I did not watch the pre-show. And just for the record, before we get to this part, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have sent out your well wishes as things are going and developing. I have no updates as far as the personal stuff with me, but thank you all of you for understanding and rolling with the punches as I've gone through all of this. But we are still here to provide you the best quality wrestling programming this side of the continental United States, or as far as your VPN will allow you to access. So we now begin with the tag team match, the first match, which is RK Bro versus AJ and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championships. This started the show, and honestly, this match I didn't see most of. And the reason I didn't see most of is I've been dealing with, I missed it as getting things together. I had to make a couple phone calls, so I missed most of this. But what I saw of it, I mean, the crowd was into it, but I didn't really see anything like drastically special about it. The RKO out of nowhere, that was pretty much the big surprise. I don't know what was going on with like the Chef Boyardee like goatee thing that he was going for. You know what he looked like? He looked like that stereotypical face that people draw on like billboards when they're trying to do like the devil face where they get like the spikes and then they have like the sharp pointed, right? So I don't know. He was looking very mariachi band-esque, I guess, is another way to put that. But in any case, pigeons still flew out of RK Bro's toes. Why Matt Riddle has these, and I consistently call him Matt Riddle. I refuse to just call him Riddle. It's not Jim Carrey in The Riddler. It's no. I refuse to call him that. And I haven't really loved Matt Riddle of late, and I don't know how much I love their tag team. It's okay, but they kind of look like they are still trying to gel as a tag, which I guess is the point. But then again, this is not the show. It's well documented WWE does not care about tag teams nearly as much as they care about singles. And that's something that Vince has always been like. For whatever reason, And I don't know what that reason is. Maybe you can tell me what that reason is. If you, Vince McMahon, are watching this right now, maybe you can tell me specifically, not through a lawsuit, but perhaps just through engaging conversation. There was a beautiful moonsault DDT that AJ Styles did on the outside, which was gorgeous, which reminded me just how much fun AJ Styles was in his singles run when he wasn't trying to carry a very, very green Omos. And I have been informed that Omos is spelled Omos, and I have been spelling it Omas. And that's about as much as I've got on that. So I have been informed here today, ladies and gentlemen, on a faux pas, as they are called. So anyway, they had a lot of stuff going on in the beginning that I missed, as I said. But then Randy Orton hits an RKO and pins AJ Styles 1, 2, 3. I missed that AJ Styles Randy Orton match that nobody could see because of the lights. That was actually a pretty solid match, and that's what this reminded me of. It was a good start, at least from what I saw. The crowd was into it, so I got no complaints about this one. It seemed to be just all right, and that's pretty much as good as you could expect from WWE tag divisions of late. It's sad to say. Then, oh god, this match. How do I even describe this match? If I wanted the epitome of why, I would rather WWE not air women's wrestling than give us what they give us. It's this match. Eva Marie versus Alexa Bliss. Who in their right mind thought this was a good idea to book? I just don't understand. I don't understand what the appeal of this is here. I mean, I really don't. Eva Marie, who, as I've said, and is well documented, it's 100% has to be Laurinaitis, who brought her back in the first place. And she has done a great job of devaluing Piper Niven, who is Dewdrop. And honestly, she was supposed to be the highlight of this, and I don't even think the Piper Niven got out of this without some damage on her. Honestly, this was just bad. Everything about this was bad. Eva Marie cannot punch. She cannot hit the ropes. She cannot roll correctly for a pin. And Alexa Bliss looked great. Her assets were tremendous on this night. And it just saddens me that she just wasn't a serious, individual, and she was not just a gimmick. Then if there's a gimmick that has been awful ever since she joined, the one gimmick that used to be good and then turned absolute just stupid, and then got burned alive and then resurrected and then beaten again because the main reason that Bray Wyatt lost his powers was that he took one RKO, because that's all it ever takes for Bray Wyatt. And the very comfortable fact that Alexa Bliss sat on a jack-in-the-box and bled from a crown. And that supposedly absorbed Bray Wyatt's power and his job. I wonder if she took his paycheck. Well, I hope not, because if it was that amount of money for this matchup, then she should be on Nick Khan's list to go next. And this match had no sense to it at all. It was bad strikes back and forth. No one was the babyface here. This was like a heel versus heel match, but nobody cared. This was not going to be Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels by any means. This was the very opposite. This is the exact opposite of Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels. This is the absolute 180 color negative version of Shawn Michaels and Rick Martel. Then Alexa Bliss, apparently, who is the babyface, because Eva Marie punched the doll, and the punches on the doll looked better than the punches on actually Alexa Bliss. And it was just, so then Alexa Bliss gets mad that she punched a doll and does one of the worst Lou Thez press I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, it was vomit nauseatingly bad. I was like, and that was it was really bad. Yeah, it was just like that. And even thinking about it now is making me a little queasy. as I'm rocking back and forth like I actually am indeed on a pirate ship. And maybe I am on a pirate ship. You don't know that. I could be, this whole dungeon could be just rocking on a boat, and I'm just the one moving, and everything else I've centered the camera so that it's actually like rocking with everything. And I am in fact the one that is moving, but I am on a boat. Trust me, I am on a boat. And I wish that I was sailing the hell away from this match, because this match was absolutely terrible. Lily had the most interesting moves of the night. Alexa Bliss then did lead a sweeping DDT, and then, as I mentioned before, Eva Marie actually went the wrong way as Alexa Bliss was rolling her for the pin, and then had to roll the other way. How do you mess that up? How do you mess that up? It's so simple. If you feel somebody pulling you one direction, why are you running the And they said that they cared about the women's division, and they very clearly do not. Because this was the first match, and none of the women's matches past this are going to receive much of better treatment of value, and that's really a shame, because it was just, I feel bad. Well, not for these women specifically. I feel bad for Piper Niven, but I don't really feel bad for these women, because this was just blah. This was bad. This was just very bad. But this should never have taken place. I feel bad that they don't value the women at all. At all. And we're supposed to accept that as equal to the men when they very clearly care about the men's matches. And then Mario Lopez shows up, and thankfully he saved we were saved by the bell. Yeah, that last match, that DDT and pin, we were saved by the bell, because that was, this JR would call bowling shoe ugly. And then Mario Lopez shows up to do an interview, and that was fun. And we're going to move right along from that and move on to what I would consider the match of the night. And I know that a lot of people think that it should be Edge and Rollins later on, but I'm going to explain to you why I think that's bullshit. So, here's why. Damian Priest and Sheamus, nobody cared about this crowd. Nobody cared. And the crowd did not care about this match at all until Damian Priest and Sheamus made them care. And not only made them care, got them hot and invested in this match as to who was going to come out of this the winner. And Damian Priest was the one who needed this win and got this win in a convincing pin style. And Sheamus made this guy look great. And I have to say, in no way, this match easily, even though it had a kind of a rough botch in it, this match, for what it accomplished for Damian Priest, for what they were going for in the long run with this matchup, as far as getting somebody over and making them feel more important, and the person taking the loss isn't valued any less in the way that they lost. This match was excellent. I thought that this was the match of the night by far, just for what it accomplished. And that's not taking anything away from the matches later on. We're going to talk about those in a minute, but this match, these guys just had what it took. These guys just had what was necessary to elevate the crowd and get them back into this after a show killer of a match right before that. Because that match was so bad, I was like, man, the rest of the show may be real rough after this. But thankfully, it wasn't. Thankfully, it was not. So, I really would wish that Sheamus, I don't know what it is about Sheamus, and perhaps it's because I don't watch the shows, actually, like SmackDowns or Raws. I feel like every time Sheamus comes out, he's wearing a different getup, and I feel like that's not helping him. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I feel like, I don't want to call it identity searching, but it's kind of identity searching. You know, it's like, come on, Sheamus. We know who you are at this point. And maybe that's the point. Maybe I've kind of just proven my own point contrary to. So anyway, while I'm not talking myself out of arguments, still, in any case, Repo Man would love that mask back. But it was nice, the whole broken nose thing. Every time I see Damian Priest, this dude is a star. There's no way that they're not going to push Damian Priest. I can't see Vince McMahon souring on this guy at all. I really can't. I think that this guy has got everything it takes. He reminds me of Biker Taker in a lot of ways. He's just got, and it's not even just the moveset, because he's got he did the tornado DDT, and there was a top rope walking spot, even though it wasn't quite the same. And he did a choke slam and just a big boot. But it's a lot of it's his demeanor. A lot of it is just like the way that his body language resonates. He's got it. He understands how to work a good match. And Sheamus is so good at being the guy who's kind of, I guess, a gatekeeper for some of these guys who they do want to develop. And Sheamus has kind of found his niche spot there. And I think that that's still good for him. I think he's still a terrific wrestler. Is Sheamus. I've always enjoyed Sheamus's work, even though a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people haven't loved Sheamus. He isn't really the world champion man. He's had world championships, which is great for a guy like that. And somebody who has fit into this role as kind of the mid-card gatekeeper has really kind of benefited a lot of people. I mean, his matches with Drew McIntyre, God, I wish we had a really good one on pay-per-view. His one with that, he had the face paint on where Drew did. Wasn't bad. I thought that was pretty good, but I thought that also, they could have had one of those big major clompers that they had on SmackDown. They could have easily had that on pay-per-view and not done that all the time on SmackDown, and that would have been just as sufficient, maybe even better, because we wouldn't have been so soiled on it. But in any case, this match, the collar and elbow was a struggle at first, which I really actually liked because it already got into the fight feel. Like it already got into the whole groove of doing how do I describe it? I like suspending my disbelief. And I mentioned this several times before, but part of why I like wrestling is being able to suspend the disbelief that these two, on top of just wrestling for a championship, are actually trying to beat the piss out of each other. And actually are kind of mad at each other for it, and are getting in that aggressive energy and kind of letting it out on each other. And I like the idea that not everything in wrestling has to be so clean cut and perfectly executed, unless it's a very obvious botch, which is different. And there was one in this match that I actually kind of glossed over. And maybe that's just because I was more enveloped in how these guys were telling this story, which was fine. And so anyway, so they do this Colonial, and it's kind of a struggle. It doesn't really get where it needs, but I like the kind of the fight feel start to it. The strikes were solid between these two. I didn't expect anything less. Damian Priest definitely knows how to throw a punch. Thankfully, it was the dive. Right. It was the dive off the top, and he just didn't get all of it, and Sheamus tried to catch him. Didn't go as well as I think we expected, but that also is kind of reminiscent of Taker, because Taker didn't always land those top rope dives either. So, I'm just saying. But I really do enjoy Damian Priest, and these two. I mean, the only thing I didn't like, I think they call it. I think it's the White Noise backbreaker. Maybe White Noise is the one where he does the Celtic Cross, but it's the big backbreaker he does with Sheamus. It's like a Uranagi backbreaker. And he did it this time. And then as Damian Priest is like on his knee, he like flexed, just like that. And he did a little bit of flexing here. And I was like, he's still on your leg. You should at least like push him off your leg and then do that. Just because I feel like if you did that and the punch to the face, it just, to me, I more felt like it was necessary more to get him off because Priest was still in like strikeable range in case he like came to. I didn't really love that, but in any case, I'm picking nits. Honestly, I'm picking nits because the crowd didn't care, but then they started doing the full with the face mask and the tornado DDT, and then they did the clubs to the chest, but he only got like 3 or 4 when the crowd started counting. He's like, nah, screw you. You don't get the count with me. Loved that. Great heel deal. And the crowd started getting into it, and they really started getting into it. And then I saw one of my favorite moves Damian Priest did. I love the thunderclap more than anything else. It's my favorite thing that Roddy Piper did. I love that I saw it with Damian Priest, where he goes the wham, and the head just kind of get wedged in between the biceps. And I just always love that move. It's like such a gimmicky, like old school joke. I don't want to say joke, but it's an old school pro wrestling move. And I do enjoy that move. So it was great to see him like, oh, thunderclap. And the tornado DDT, as I mentioned before, the top rope spinning heel kick looked awesome, but I have a complaint. That's a finish. A top rope spinning heel kick is a finish. I just thought that for what they were doing, there were two moves in this where I thought those should have been finishes, not necessarily to this match, but it should have been saved for a finish maybe down the line or in a more decisive match or something, It was just a finish. That's what I would say. It was that one and the big Sheamus Dominator or the Alabama Slam. I can't remember which side he had on. He had it on when he laid him down. But in either case, it was an incredible shot. I think it was an Alabama Slam, actually. And it was great. And I thought that also was a finish. And, I wouldn't mind that as Sheamus's finish if he didn't want to use the Brogue Kick anymore. Although I'm sure the Brogue Kick is a lot easier on his health than a Dominator, I would bet. Or an Alabama Slam, that is. I did like the Brogue Kick that was supposed to be it was supposed to be a kick that it ended up being like a knee lift, but it's still fine. But the crowd was in it. I mean, at this point they were in it, and then they did this move where Sheamus had Damian Priest in I think a leg lock, and he came back. Damian Priest came back, and he just looked and he goes, "Bitch!" and he just starts like hacking like haymakers at Sheamus, and it was just like this funniest moment. And Sheamus has to like cover up. And it finally breaks the hold, and then eventually the Damian Priest hits his finish, 1, 2, 3. It was a great match. It went a little long. It did go a little bit long. I will not deny that it went a little long, but it was good. It was honestly good. I really enjoyed it. It went as well as it possibly could. It was my favorite match of the night because it definitely got Damian Priest over more than I could have possibly imagined WWE could do. Because they have been so good at devaluing people that when they do value people, even though it's feeling good, but they're just going to wreck it and just crash you back down, which just sucks. And I just hate that. I know that they're going to do that. I know they're going to do that. And I hate the fact that they're going to do that because it's total malarkey. It's bull honky and all sorts of other words that I could probably describe to you, but I just cannot at this moment because we got a lot of show to do. Then we go on to another Ray and Dominic segment backstage, and they always sound so scripted. And I just like, can we not have one of these at every single pay-per-view? And this whole thing with Ray and Dominic, I don't know what should I say about this. First of all, if you're gonna just have them feud and get it over with. But I'm gonna tell you this: Dominic is not ready to break out on his own as a single. You do that, he is going to crash and burn, I guarantee it. He is not ready. He is 100% not ready for this. And here's the problem with this as well. They didn't do it here tonight, but what did you think was going to happen here with this match with the Usos? They were not going to give Ray and Dominic the championships back. And by the way, how many times have we seen Eddie, Ray, I'm sorry, I said Eddie. See, this is also another thing I'm going to have to tell. How many times have we seen Ray, Dominic, and the Usos wrestle each other in the past 3 months? Like 8 times? 9 times? Like these guys have just been like, they've been hugging each other in the hotel rooms. They've been wrestling that many times. It's like, good gravy. This is just too many times. And I honestly think that this was not necessary. I thought the Usos should have wrestled somebody else. And it didn't really do anything for Ray and Dominic if they're going to try and further that feud. Didn't really do anything for the Usos either, except just give them another win. And this one was a lot more decisive. And the one thing about the Usos is they do have great tag skills, and I started getting technical in this one. The Usos had there was one thing I had an issue with, and it was during this match. I thought the Usos made a bit of a rookie mistake, as if I'm anyone to critique this kind of thing, but I noticed this. So when Dominic is isolated, but they're getting the heat on him, and Ray comes in to try and interfere because they've been kind of manipulating where the refs are, the Usos, that is. Ray goes in to break it up, try to break it up, and the referee slowly, pushes it back into the corner. And instead of taking that time to double team Dominic, they just posed. And I thought that really wasn't good. Like taunting for heel heat, that was not the time to let the crowd know that, you were being arrogant. I thought double teaming then and then hitting a big move and then having the pose afterwards when the referee's back in. It makes more sense to pose when the referee can see anyway, because that doesn't mean anything. But it also doesn't mean anything to have the referee distracted and not take advantage of that either. And I thought that was kind of a surprise mistake by the Usos. And maybe that's just me. And then Pat McAfee screamed Hadouken like a big old flappity bird, like pelican. Imagine a pelican screaming Hadouken. That was Pat McAfee. And I love Pat McAfee. There's nothing wrong there. I'm not trying to say anything about Pat McAfee. He actually is the only reason that makes Michael Cole even palatable at this stage, because Pat's just so good at what he does. And then Dominic comes in this was the suplex that was going to lead to the hot tag. And I don't know whether you noticed this, but Dominic did so little of the work. He pretty much, Jey Uso suplexed himself, because you saw him jump. He got like no elevation on it, did Dominic, and then Uso just fell right on it. Like literally, Jey Uso jumped and did a bump, and Dominic Mysterio was there. But then the hot tag was good. Then they got the hot tag first. Uso to Jimmy, I think, came in, and then the big tag to Ray, and Ray knows what he's doing. So, of course, he's the guy who has to make the comeback with the right hands and the left hands and the springboardy and all the stuff that Rey Mysterio does so well. And Ray still looks solid after all these years. Everything he does still looks great. And then there was a big old super kick, a real big old super kick, a stiff super kick that was snug. It wasn't the one that completely missed. There was one that completely missed. This was not the one that completely missed, though. And then there was another apron spot. They did one in the Omos match, too. And I didn't really care for either of these apron spots, even though it is the hardest part of the ring. And it just didn't really do it for me. It never really does it for me, do the apron spots, unless it's really intense or just plain old stupid, as in AEW, when he just, who was it? Darby Allin just did the coffin drop and just landed thwap straight on the apron. It's like, why? Why do that? Why do that to yourself? Then the 619 still gets a pop. Still love that. And now we're going to get to the heart of why I didn't like this match. WWE has a fetish. A fetish. Somebody is nutting themselves in the back. Narcoleptically so. Because somebody cannot get over the fact that Eddie Guerrero died 16 years ago. Everything has to be for Eddie Guerrero with these two. And it honestly hurts Ray and Dominic. It really does. And this is why I feel this way. Listen, obviously, I love Eddie Guerrero. That's not what we're talking about here. But the problem is, every time they mention Eddie Guerrero, they devalue what Ray and Dominic are doing, because everybody then goes to think about Eddie Guerrero. Or, in our case, we're just so sick of hearing about Eddie because Eddie is gone, and let's see what Ray and Dominic are about. They deliberately devalue their talent by doing this. And they think that it's, this big, honorable, memorable thing, but it's been 16 years. Let it go. You have sodomized Eddie's name and legacy for money so long. Let it go. Let him rest, for God's sakes. And just the whole between, it's all Michael Cole screaming for Eddie. And I'm like, stop it. This is not for Eddie. This is for tag titles in 2021. It's not always, I hate it. I hate it when they do it with Sasha Banks. I hate it when they do it with the Mysterios. And they've been real bad doing it with the Mysterios. And unless they're going to actually just turn it into an angle and do another Mysterio and Guerrero thing, do it and stop mentioning it. Just stop. Just either do one big blow off or just. And then the Usos win. And when the Usos win, I got to flip over my notes here. Got 10 pages. At this point, I didn't even care about the finish, because I was just like, you got to stop mentioning Eddie Guerrero, because it was just, it permeated the match. And honestly, it makes the matches feel worse, especially when that's the whole theme to the match with the frog splash and the amigos. And it's like, guys, just stop. Just stop. You are beating a horse, a dead horse, for 16 years. Not even the bones are left. You've beaten the bones into powder. Just leave the mound. It's like a RuneScape. After you've taken the bones and you've buried the bones and you've just got a pile of ashes. It's just leave this pile of ashes alone. Leave the memories alone. Because it's hurting these matches, and it hurts my investment in Rey and Dominic. And that's just the way that it goes. You know, this was an okay match. It was nothing special. And it felt like it was not really meant to be on this pay-per-view. And that's just the way it is. And then we got a fantastic interview from Lady McPherson, who gave us the wonderful the first-time national champion, Damian Priest. And she's like, hey, congratulations, you've won the national championship of United States. How do you feel, Mr. Damian? And he goes, I'm Damian Priest. I have a belt now. No, he actually did a good promo. He did as solid a promo as they could. And she's like, oh, congratulations. And they cut that off. They didn't even let her say congratulations before Dunn was like, no, we're moving right on from that. And now I don't even blame him a bit. Then we come up, but we'll talk about Kevin Dunn later. Then we got the Rickish of Boogsish in a segment that just made absolutely no sense. Rick Boogs comes out and does his over-the-top, like, if Elias drank like 6 monsters and a 5-hour energy, that'd be Rick Boogs. And did that constantly, every 6 hours. A monster an hour and a 5-hour energy every 2.5 hours. That would be Elias with Rick Boogs. No one wants to walk with Elias. Who wants to just like straight up eyebulge electric guitar jam? That's Rick Boogs. Elias, this is Elias's evolved Pokemon form, is Rick Boogs. That's Elias evolved into Rick Boogs. And Lord knows what the third evolution is going to be. It's probably just going to be like just a straight up like death metal guy. And it's just going to be absolutely just metal core, all screaming, all just bass. It's just going to be like coked out of his mind. That's Tony Khan. Anyway, although I don't say he's not very metal. Tony Khan is not metal at all. As if me in my pink polo and tricorner hat have the reason, have the excuse to determine what is and is not metal. Sorry, that makes me laugh. Anyway, speaking of uniforms, Pat McAfee wore white. Shinsuke Nakamura came out, and they literally just danced just for the fuck of it. There was no match to this. There was no point to this. It's just Pat McAfee decided to dance with Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura, the Intercontinental Champion. Pat McAfee is like, oh, we all wore white. We did it on purpose. And they all just danced, and Michael Cole's like, I don't know what's going on. I agreed. And then that was it. That was it. So the next match, we move on to Bianca versus Sasha Banks. Bianca Belair, of course, for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And this is where the booking takes a fantastic nosedive into just, I guess, I don't even know how to describe what I'm about to describe to you. So let me describe it to you. First of all, they do this package about Sasha Banks going, and saving Bianca Belair, who was going, and that was pretty much the whole feud. Sasha comes back and helps Bianca from Mella and Zelina Vega. And then later on, they do a contract signing, and then Carmella and Zelina Vega are teaming up with Sasha Banks. But, like, why would they after Sasha came and just beat the teetotal shit out of them and then attacked Bianca? And then was like, oh, wait, I'm healed now, so give me some cronies. This is as deep as the booking gets for WWE's women's division. This is literally the depth of it all. And Bianca's like, okay. And so now we're going to have this matchup. And this match doesn't happen because this whole thing is just an angle that took so long. If they just milked this just a little bit less, I would have been a little bit happier because it just was dragged. It just dragged. So Bianca gets in the ring and Hamwich goes, ladies and gentlemen, Sasha Banks can't be here tonight, so here's somebody else. And it's Carmella. And Carmella was looking great. And the first thing I thought of was, thank God that we did not have what's his face, Corey Graves on commentary. Because now I might actually be able to palate Carmella coming down to the ring, and then she came out to the worst entrance music I have ever heard WWE produce. Not even William Regal's "I'm a man, he's a man." That's better than this. This was just not even generic. It was bad generic. This is like what you would get if you played. This is going to be a real niche reference, but when you're playing Payday 2 in the nightclub heist, and you buy the favors so that the DJ is playing really bad music and there's only like 4 people in the club, that's what would be playing at this moment for Mella. It was just terrible. And I like Mella for what she's worth. I like Mella, but no, just bad. And obviously it was disappointing. And then all of a sudden we hear Becky come out, although there were Becky chants, so I think a lot of people kind of suspected she was coming, but she still got a hell of a pop. And I was like, oh, it's good to see that she gets a pop. It tells me and reminds me that when they want to, they will book the women correctly. They can do it. They have done it. They choose not to because they don't want to. And this is what comes up. There's a big milking moment. Sasha's not here. And Becky Lynch goes, oh, look at me. It's good to be back here. And she looks, and then she goes and smacks Mella around a little bit and kind of shoos her out of the ring. And she goes, oh, well, look at there, Bianca Belair. You want to come and have a fight with this here lassie right here, right now for the women's title? And, you know, everyone, she looks around, and Bianca's like, okay. And so we have this match. And this match lasts all of 5 or 6 seconds because Bianca goes to shake Becky Lynch's hand, and Becky Lynch does a poor excuse of a rock bottom, like a real poor woman's excuse of a rock bottom, that they called the manhandle slam. And I would have loved to have manhandled the man who came up with that into a fucking glass pane, and not a sugar glass pane, a real glass pane, and not in a ring, mind you. I'm not doing this thing at fucking hardware in a warehouse in Poxapocket, New Brunswick, Nevada. I'm going to be in a hardware store lunging them through multiple windows because that's the worst name for a move I've ever heard in my life. That took a lot to piece all that together, but I did come back around eventually. I'm proud of myself. Anyway, so she comes back. How do I put... I don't know how to describe my anger at this moment because I'm trying. I mean, it's been a couple days removed. I'm trying to be peaceful about this. I'm trying to be civil. But how in God's green earth could you possibly do this to Bianca Belair? She has been on a roll. She was just main evented night 1 of WrestleMania and won it. And it was, you know, for what it was about the match and why that match was there. And there, you know, we'll get into that when we've already discussed that. It was still meant something. It still mattered. And then up to now, she has had decent feuds that have kept her the belt. She's feuded with Carmella like 6 times on SmackDown, which is why her coming out was so disheartening. But this was not fair to her. Why was this necessary? Why was this necessary? Why would you do this? Why would you just make it the horsewomen? And you know what? The crowd hated it. They tried to fill it with filler cheers. Didn't happen. They did not like this at all. They hated this. And you could see it, although you couldn't hear it, but you could see it. The crowd just like died for it. And the only thing I could think of is that this is just the seeds of a heel turn for Becky. That's got to be it. It's got to be the seeds for a heel turn with Becky, and that hopefully we will get Bianca and Becky at Mania, I guess. I mean, they're probably just going to hotshot the feud, and we're going to get it twice in the next. We're going to get it at Extreme Rules. Oh, great. And probably at the next pay-per-view, which will be, I don't know. They switched everything around. I forgot what they're doing in October. Are they doing another Money in the Bank? No, they advertised that for next year. There was a weird, like, why'd they advertise Money in the Bank for July of 2022? That was a very weird promo, like, in the middle of this show, instead of giving us the, like, pay-per-view in October. And maybe they'll do Unforgiven. Probably not. They're probably going to do just like Ring Around the Rosie or something like that. You know, a really good, hardening, kid-friendly title. The Fruity Pebble Plank Off, something like that. If you people make up the name of WWE's October pay-per-view, leave it in the comment section below. And here's the thing. So I had a couple issues with this whole thing. Beyond the fact that you've just buried Bianca for no reason, and Bianca was like, oh, well, you got me. She looks like a total plebe now. So congratulations on taking somebody who actually could have met the level of the Horsewomen and cutting her right back down to size and making sure that she knows her role. And congratulations on being the new Asuka of the WWE. Congratulations. You're the new Asuka, Bianca Belair. I hope you're happy with that now. Please do not regress to the levels of Asuka. Please continue doing what you're doing because you are a tremendous athlete and a tremendous worker, and you deserve it. And so but you did not deserve this. You did not deserve a 5-second squash and looking like a total idiot when you had every right to have like a decent match. Why, if you were not going to have this match, if you were going to have this, why would you just... I don't get it. Why does WWE hate every single woman other than Bayley, Sasha Banks? Well, they do kind of hate Sasha Banks. Bayley, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. Everybody else, they couldn't give a toss about. They could fire them all next week, and they would probably not cry much about it. That's the way that they've booked all of these women. Some of them deserve it. Some of them do not. But I honestly feel bad. If this is the treatment that you're going to get, you're going to main event WrestleMania, but we're also going to take it away from you in the most demeaning way possible 6 months later. I'm sure that that's the way that Vince describes this to them when they say you're going to win the belt. I'm sure that that's his pitch because he used to be the guy who would know a year and a half later what was going on the show. But instead, now we're at the point where I'm just going to beat you in the powder, even though I might respect you for like this 5 seconds. That's all you get is 15 minutes, lady. There are certain people who will get to be on the show and they're main characters. That's a word they actually said. Main characters. You either a main character or you're a side piece. And every single woman besides Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Bayley and maybe Sasha Banks is a side piece. And that's a shame. That's a God's honest shame. But that's what this shows. That's what this showed right here. By the way, another thing. So Becky and Bianca can just make a match for each other, even if she accepts, like right here, right now, they could just have the authority to do that instead of just having the people who actually run the show, like Adam Pearce or I guess Sonya Deville, even though I have yet to know what it is Sonya Deville actually does. What is her job title? What is her office description? I have no idea what or why or how she has earned that spot. But this is WWE, and I'm not supposed to ask questions. And I'm still going to ask that question because I'm waiting for an answer. I've been bitching about this for 2 years now. I want to know what she does. Somebody tell me what she does. I just want to know. I just want to know. I'm just a curious man with a curious answer. Then they do Olympic pandering. I mean, they do Olympic heroes coming down. And I actually really like the medalist thing. I thought that was kind of cool. They actually said the word wrestling a few times on this program, which is more than they normally do. So I'm pretty happy about that. And they brought them on, and they looked really excited to be there. So I had no issue with that. I thought that was fine. Then we get Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. And hold on, let me get some water. This match... This Court-Martail podcast sponsored by water. Drink it. So, Kevin Dunn. I'm going to talk real with you. I know you're looking at me right now, Kevin Dunn, and I see the fear in your eyes because you know I will lay forth a tongue thrashing so vile, so vehement, and so on point that you will cower behind your teeth in fear. Because every time that you have a match where one man is coming down the ring, you have to show some B-roll. You have to pop a vignette mid-entrance so that everybody around cannot look at the man coming down to the ring. And I've seen your game, Kevin Dunn. I've watched you do it day in and day out. Morning, afternoon, and evening. You eat, sleep, and breathe mediocrity. And sooner or later, I'm going to find you. I'm going to kill you. Metaphorically, that is. And I'm going to give you the tongue lashing of a lifetime until you are on your knees begging for mercy. And that, my friend, is a fact. So stop it with the B-roll. So now, here we go. This matchup was a squash. And that promo you just heard from me was longer than this match. and the good thing is Drew McIntyre is still over. I think taking him out of the title picture was the right move. You know, I think that the way they did it was garbage because that's how they do it, is garbage. But I still think that for what it's worth, Drew McIntyre being effectively out of the title picture for this moment is good for him. Honestly, it really is. He needs this. He needs to not be in the title picture, but he's still over as a babyface, which was nice. Jinder Mahal, nobody gave a fuck about. Not at all. Nobody. Not a single body. Not one particular body cared about Jinder Mahal. I tried. But then I saw it selling, and it was bad. It's literally lay, roll over, look this way. Turn around, roll over, look this way. Oh, no, I'm hurt. Oh, get up. Time to get up. He hit a pretty cool super kick. That was nice. And the only reason it was nice was that Drew knew how to sell it. Drew McIntyre just beat the absolute bat shit out of this guy, just completely smacked him down. And brought a sword to the ring. I almost forgot. Drew McIntyre brought a claymore to the ring. And the second that he did that, I was upset that nobody was going to be cut in half. Don't set things up that you're not willing to pay off, WWE. And you know that's what you were setting up. And there is no way that you could pay that off effectively. And and then it didn't make sense for him to swing it at people. Like, what was going to happen if he connected? That was a lawsuit. And everybody there knew it was a lawsuit. So, yeah, there was the watch out. I just beat your boy at a wrestling match. If you come and strike me, I'm going to kill you. It's like Drew's not that crazy, not on a WWE wrestling show. And that kind of swinging around a sword should really be saved for a heel. But in any case, at least there was no fake slab for him to put it into. They didn't do that. So I got to give them credit for that because that was bad. That was really overly gimmicky. And then 1, 2, 3, Claymore. Thanks for coming, Jinder. That was it. And Drew McIntyre goes to strike the boys with the Claymore, and that was that. Oh man, how many more of these we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 matches left. Oh boy, okie dokie then. Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley versus Nikki Ash. I mean, Nikki ASH. Nikki almost superhero. This was... okay. Side tangent, if you hear. I'm going to go into a little bit of this thing about triple threat matches, okay? For those of you who follow my wrestling fantasy booking, ACPW versus NWL, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that I've really stuck to basically just singles matches and tag team matches with the occasional, like, battle royal that I popped in the other day, you know? And the whole reason I'm bringing that up is that I really just don't like triple threat matches anymore because they're just moves. They're just coordinated moves. Okay, you two fight and I'll be out here. Then I'm going to come in and hit you and you go out and then we'll fight. And then you come in and you hit this guy and you go out and then we fight. And they do that every single time. And then it's moves and moves and moves. And they do a little fighting to get into position and then a big move. And then, you know, they all play out the exact same way. And I'm just over them. I'm just over them. I'm just over these things. Oh, did I just get a response from the sky? Oh, I guess he forgot that he forgot we were live. Anyway, I'm still talking about this match. I haven't even really gotten into this match, but in any case, to me, this just didn't do it. This just doesn't do it for me. And part of it, you're listening to my Bluetooth speaker, by the way. That's what that was. Reconnecting, and I've got to connect this speaker so it can charge. Can it charge from up here? That'd be cool. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just getting some things coordinated in case he's there we go. Now he's on. And so we are gonna get Skylar after all. All right, here we go. Did it connect? Oh, I hope it connected the way I thought it would. Oh, it may not have. Hold on, Sky. Hold on, Sky. I'm gonna get you. Yeah, it didn't. Oh, no, it should be fine. Can you hear me, Sky? I can't hear him. All right, hold on.
Soggy sandwich.
Hold on, Sky. Hold on. Hold on.
Connected to soggy sandwich and fuck you and parking here.
All right, go ahead. Speak, sir.
Now can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. There we go.
No. Ah, man. First off, I apologize for showing up late.
Yeah, well, welcome on to the show. Welcome back. We actually just got to Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley versus Nikki Ash.
Okay, really quickly, let me go over the matches that I missed, okay?
Okay, you do sound a little bit like you're underwater, sir.
Hold on.
As he's getting
just like most of the pay-per-view.
Yes, well, we can't help Peacock from being Peacock.
Okay, fine, whatever. Anyways.
There we go.
Anyways, I sound better now.
You do sound better now. Yes, you do.
Okay. Let me be very quick, okay?
Yeah, give us a rundown as we've gone through. We've already gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches.
Just give me the match. Just give me the match, and I'll give you a quick rundown.
All right. Let's RK Bro versus AJ and Omos.
Solid tag opener. I hate the fact that tag teams are no longer tag teams. Whatever with Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. Let's wait until Randy Orton RKOs them.
Okay. Eva Marie versus Alexa Bliss.
Abortion. Next.
Yeah. Damian Priest versus Sheamus.
Sneaky dark horse match of the night. Sheamus is awesome as a heel. Damian Priest is a really good babyface. Future world champion? Question mark.
I could definitely see it. Ray and Dominic versus the Usos.
Not the Usos' best work. Stop mentioning Eddie Guerrero. Why the hell are you stealing my shit?
Yeah, pretty much. The angle known as Bianca versus Sasha Banks.
Why do you gotta do Bianca Belair dirty? Again, why do you have to steal my shit? Carmelo is hot. Sasha Banks, whatever. Becky Lynch, heel, yay?
Not sure yet.
Not sure yet.
And Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre.
Use a damn sword or don't use it at all. Drew gets the win, in which I'm happy. Jinder's a bitch.
All right.
You missed the part about national champion.
Yes, I did mention that. I did mention that earlier. But now we are on the...
And then Pat McAfee geeking out. Amazing.
Yep. You definitely have a more favorable look at that angle than I do.
Hey, Sean, Hadouken.
Yeah, that was fine. I liked that. The Nakamura deal, I'm not sure I did, but that's something else. But in any event,
there's the triple threat, which is a triple threat, which is a triple threat, which is a triple threat. It's the new thing now.
Yeah, that's pretty much what that was what I was saying as I saw that you were actually hopping on. The thing with these things is like you've seen one triple threat match in WWE, you've seen them all, and I feel like I've seen this matchup already with pretty much any interchangeable number of people. It's just what kind of moves that they've got. And Saxton and Graves, you've already laughed at this joke, but I'm going to say it. These guys bicker so much. They're like a couple that is just like they haven't had sex in like a week, and they just need to just fuck out their aggression.
Well, clearly they need to stop using missionary because that's all they know how to do.
Yeah, well, apparently they gotta change something up because the bickering. It's like I almost felt bad for Jimmy Smith, like sitting in the middle there, being like getting in the middle of all that, and. This match, just everything about this, the fact that Nikki Ash was the champion going in, the fact that that we got the winner that we got, The fact that we had a perfectly good feud in Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley that unsurprisingly they hot shot and then destroyed because of this triple threat match. And no, this just made me rage. This whole thing made me rage.
That is fair. That is fair. Part of me just wishes that we didn't have to do these anymore. We didn't have to watch these stupid triple threat matches. But they're going to keep doing them. They love doing them. They're never going to stop. And do we have to get Charlotte another title reign?
Look, well, before we get to the actual finish of this, it's like the big problem I have with this, beyond anything else, is just like Nikki, the fact that this matchup, she's got the pose during every one of her moves. It's like she just milks it for so long. And it's like it loses credibility with me. She did that like 3 or 4 times tonight. You know, she did definitely, the camera didn't pick it up, but you know she definitely did it before she did her big splash off the top rope.
And it took forever for her to go off the top rope, forcing Charlotte and Rhea to have to lazily brawl with each other.
Yeah, it was honestly terrible. And then Charlotte nearly killed Nikki with that corkscrew moonsault on the outside.
Which Nikki definitely deserved.
Yeah, and she was, I mean, her head got bashed, like sandwiched in the middle. And honestly, Charlotte should just stop doing that moonsault. For as often as she hits it, which is very rarely, and then when she does hit it, she almost decapitates one of the participants involved. That's pretty rough. And this just, I don't know. I did notice the one part though where Rhea Ripley got tossed over the top rope and landed on her feet and then tried to like sell it like she got hurt.
That was awkward. She basically had to decompress herself.
Yeah.
In the spring.
Yeah, I almost thought that would actually probably actually did hurt Rhea. Because that's a lot of impact to just take on your knees.
Like, that was the second worst bump of the night. The first one was obviously with Damian Priest landed on his ass because he didn't go far enough.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah, that was definitely rough. And let's
talk about this finish. Whenever they try to make a star, they make him a star, and then they proceed to ruin them by having Charlotte Flair make him tap out.
The only people who matter in the WWE Women's Division are Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. That's it.
Right. It's horsewomen or butt.
Yeah, and not even Sasha Banks is a given in that group. You know?
Well, I mean, she's a given when she's not against another horsewoman, like Asuka knew about last year.
Yeah, and this just like, once again, this is the first time that women actually stand up to the caliber of the horsewomen in a long time with Bianca and Rhea. Where the women's division, you know, there was definitely a drop-off for a significant amount of time between the horsewomen and everybody else.
Right, exactly. Besides Alexa Bliss, which is her own special case, nobody was at the level of the horsewomen except for Asuka, and then they ruined her.
Yep. They could have had it with Shayna Baszler, but they ruined her.
Yep. And then now they have Bianca, ruined. Rhea Ripley, ruined. Raquel Gonzalez, watch your number because when you get called up, you know you're going to tap out.
Yeah. She might actually just leave NXT and go straight to AEW at that point. and God, which is no upgrade as far as women's wrestling, as far as I'm concerned. But
like, it's like every time another woman gets something, like Bianca beating Bayley and Sasha, she has to lose to Becky. Or when Rhea Ripley finally gets the title, she has to lose to Charlotte. It's like, you can't stop with this stuff. I hate it. I hate all of it.
So at the very least, everyone obviously has to tap to the queen. You know, that's the whole reason that Nikki did it. But I'm glad it was Nikki and not Rhea Ripley that tapped.
Does it matter, though? Because Rhea still lost.
It matters because at least they're trying to save some value in Rhea, even though they've already made her tap to the figure 8. But it means more that it wasn't her tonight at SummerSlam. I think that they still have plans for Rhea, even if they're not necessarily horsewoman at caliber, I guess. but they still have plans for her that are not just going to beat her in the powder. I don't think.
So I pissed on your mouth, but that's okay because I didn't shit on your head.
That's WWE's women's division for you. And they're telling you that at this point, they're telling the fans, hey, you get what you get. This is what you're getting. You know,
and
it's
you know
like
what the worst part is?
That they could do this if they wanted to. They could get people over if they wanted to, and they deliberately choose not to because there's no point to try to help anybody else or get anybody over on this show because they don't want anybody getting over on this show.
Well, first off, yes. And second, you can argue that this is progressive over what we had 10 years ago with the Divas era.
I know. It's yeah. Well, then again, we did have Eva Marie on this show.
Oh, God.
So, yeah. Let's
move on, shall we? I'm tired of talking about the women.
Yes. Now, that's kind of the perfect period to put on the end of this sentence because that's for everyone who wants equality. If that's going to be your standard, then it's not equal. I'm sorry. It's just not on the same level. It's not treated as the same. It's not on the same. I feel bad for the women, too, who bust their ass to make it look and feel valuable. But it's not. It's not valuable at this point. Either do it right or don't do it at all. And at this point, I'd rather WWE leave the women's division to somebody who actually could book it correctly.
So you're saying that we need to transfer all the women to TNA and have them book it?
I mean, it can't be any worse than what Impact's putting on right now. They'd probably boost their numbers considerably.
Well, that's until someone gets shot at their wedding.
True. That is true. Christian is their current world champion as well, but that's a different story. That is a different story. But let's talk about the other half of that tag team. It's Edge and Seth Rollins. What were your impressions of this match?
Match of the night.
I don't blame you for having that opinion of this match. As I mentioned before you hopped on, I still think that Priest and Sheamus, for what it accomplished for Damian Priest, is just ever so slightly better. But this is a very, very close second. This was very fun.
Everything that Edge does in his return, it just keeps making me love him more and more. Of all the part-timers, he's the one I am not tired of and who I want to see more of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's absolutely great. And Edge, this Brood entrance with Edge, I loved. I mean, it was just cool. The way they shot it, the way he popped out with the fire, it was a great homage to a time long ago.
Hashtag fanging the banging.
But yeah, well, seriously, I mean, I really do enjoy what these guys do. I really do. It's something that
Seth Rollins stole your jacket.
You know, listen, I've been thinking about that. That jacket is really, really stereotypical. If I was going to do one and I was going to wear one, I was going to make it actually look historically authentic. You know, and that's just not historically authentic. That's a gimmick. And this ain't a gimmick for me. Well, I mean, it is because it's an actual code.
It ain't real. I'm real.
That's right. That's right.
Represent.
Yeah, me and Seth Rollins are going to have a David Letterman, Andy Kaufman moment. You watch.
And speaking of that, WWE, can you send me the royalty check? I'm giving you these ideas, okay, man?
Yeah, they've really been farming. They have been farming your material of late. and
at least I did it first.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But you were not the only one who had ideas stolen and gleaned from them mere hours later. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Seth Rollins' sling blade is the only sling blade that I actually enjoy looking at.
Because he does it the best. As much as I like Finn Balor, he can't do it like Seth Rollins can.
No, he cannot. He cannot. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the same effect, but nothing really of Finn Balor's. I mean, he's better now. I like him more now than I did before. But but still, Rollins is always going to be the holder of the Sling Blade for me. I thought that the work on the neck was really good all match. I just wish that Kevin Dunn would stop doing these replays at crucial moments in the match. He always picks the worst times to go to the instant replay.
Agreed. It's just like Kevin Dunn is the most useless bucktooth beaver I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I got a lot of my aggression out in my notes, which if you want to hear that whole podcast, which is definitely worth listening to, it's really worth listening to. Listen to TAW Gaming. Go and subscribe to that channel. They just did a review. Skylar and Joshua just did their review of SummerSlam. So Skylar pulling a double duty here on this day, in fact.
You see clearly Edge's neck is broken, which it almost was because Seth Rollins was working that thing.
No, he did great, and Edge is obviously a great seller, and these two are professionals, and it was a great deal. And then, of course, we heard from our great friend Pat McAfee, what does he have to do? He said that twice.
At least with Pat McAfee, I'm okay with it. The one thing about McAfee is that he's a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So he gets the references, and he says it with the inflection perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I like the 5-star frog splash. It was a big frog splash, a 5-star quality. And I'm glad he said that, so at least we thought of Van Dam instead of Guerrero.
Right.
Which was helpful.
Right, but the escalation and everything they did in this match, that swinging neckbreaker from the top rope by Edge was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. And it was a nice little like turn play. I like the fact that Edge hit a neckbreaker as well. And then they did this suplex into the Falcon Arrow thing. I really wish that would win a match or two more than it actually has.
Yeah, it needs to be someone's finisher, and it's just disappointing that everybody kicks out of it because it doesn't have any impact.
Because it means nothing anymore, and it looks so good. You know, I love the look of it. It just doesn't do it, and that's just the shame of it all. And then we got the spear degree, and Edge went for the spear, and Seth went for the pedigree.
There's a lot of people who do the spear on this show.
Yes.
I think Edge does it the best.
Bobby's is different. Bobby's is different.
Everyone else's power, Edge is the smallest, but he makes it look the best. I will say this, though. I think the one that Rollins and Roman did at Running the Bank with the transition from the spear to the pedigree was done better there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought that this was kind of like, I don't know whether it was a timing thing or just like Edge. I think part of it was that Rollins, there was no way for Rollins to actually grab the arms or hook them at all. So like you couldn't really quite tell what it was, I think. And that kind of also made it look a little contrived, but still I'm picking nits. I'm honestly picking nits. And then we get
the thing for me with this match is that there were a couple of points where Edge could have won it and they didn't. And I feel like you could have saved those for really awesome, cool moments. The first one was that Glam Slam.
Yeah, that was cool. That honestly should have won a match.
By the way, Edge does it better than Beth Phoenix. I'm sorry, Beth. I love you, but I think Edge does it better.
It was pretty good.
And then the Edge-O-Matic.
Yeah, that was cool. And then the Educator.
The Educator, like it's great seeing Edge pull out all of his old moves.
Yeah, I really liked that one because 2005 Edge was like one of my favorite times. And like right was he was like coming into his own as a heel, and he had that feud with Shawn Michaels that lasted like a month. And and then getting into what he did in 2006 and winning the heavyweight title, that was like my favorite version of Edge. And seeing that Educator, that made me pop.
05-06 Edge was the best heel time. That feud with Michaels, the feud with Matt Hardy that really made him.
Yeah.
The stuff with John Cena.
Yep.
The Undertaker, all that stuff. Edge, that was the best Edge, I think. Like, he brought back shades of himself. That's the one thing I love about Edge is that he is such a diverse wrestler. I mean, we talked about the Brood, we talked about 05-06 Edge, and then there's modern day Edge.
Yeah.
And he won with like a sleeper crossface after basically taking Seth Rollins' head and bashing it against the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, that was intense. I thought it was a great finish. I thought it was a fun. I would have liked the Educator to have done it, but that's just me. But I was like, well, it was just as good. It was just as good. The Canadian submission machine, Edge, and
oh God,
and it was
I forgot he had that nickname.
And we almost missed the spear to the outside that Big E always looks like he's going to kill himself with, and Edge made look flawless. Flawless.
Well, that's because Big E, as much as I love Big E, he doesn't have the grace that Edge does.
No, not in the spear. And I also think that he, even when Big E gets the momentum, he doesn't actually carry that momentum all the way with him. I think that's part of the problem too. Right,
is that in order to do the spear to the outside, you have to go with no fear, and I think Big E still has a little bit of fear.
Yeah, but in any case, this match was good. I really enjoyed this match. It lived up to the expectations I think it had on it.
Yes, it did. The only thing, though, is that when is Edge going to win the world title? Because you know it's going to come at some point, and he has to.
Imagine John Cena. Oh, my God. You have Edge win the world title maybe at some pay-per-view between now and WrestleMania, and then you have John Cena win it from Edge. That's right. Or it's going to, oh, my God, Edge versus Goldberg at WrestleMania. Oh, my God. Well, speaking of Goldberg. Well, speaking of Goldberg, well, before we get to this Goldberg, this segment in between this, I'm thirsty. Yeah. I was so thirsty. I just got to mention one thing real quick. Why would you waste a Scott Hall impression on this garbage? Number one. Number two, why would you make someone do a Scott Hall impression who does not have a good Scott Hall impression? Number three, why did Xavier Woods have a headset? Who gave him that headset? Why was he allowed to have that headset? The whole thing was absolutely stupid. 100% valueless, pointless. There's got to be something better for Xavier to do instead of this while they're waiting for Kofi.
Well, and here's the thing. Where was Kofi?
Selling his injury.
What injury?
The absolute shellacking he got from Bobby Lashley.
No, he's appeared on TV before, so what?
Shh. Don't add logic. Don't add stuff they've told you. Trying to make some sense of this shit.
So yeah, whatever. I hate freaking Xavier Scott Woods Hall. It didn't work.
It did not work.
The dripstick stuff is so stupid.
I agree. And speaking of stupid, we now move on to the WWE Championship match. It's Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. Now, I know that you have got a particular love of Goldberg. And the first two words I wrote down in my notes were, I'm afraid.
Fair enough. And honestly, I'm surprised it went longer than 3 minutes. It went 7 minutes.
It was the longest Goldberg match since he's returned. The first time. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And
here's the thing, is that Edge looks great in his return. He's in the best shape of his career when he came back, right?
For sure.
Goldberg is one spear away from throwing out his hip.
Yeah. Yeah, Goldberg is not in the shape. They called him 285 pounds, and I looked at Goldberg. I was like, that's some bullshit right there. There's no way he's 285. He came out and he looked blown up just walking out of his locker room door. And
which is why you had Goldberg do his entrance first instead of Bobby Lashley, so he can blow up and get a chance to breathe.
Yeah, and he did not. And as a result, he looked like garbage this whole match. He tried to lift Bobby up and nearly dropped him both times that he did those moves. I'm thankful that they didn't even make him attempt a jackhammer. Thank God. Thank God.
But did you notice that they didn't have Goldberg do any of his offense? He didn't get a spear off. He used power slams, he used clotheslines, but he didn't really do any of the signature Goldberg stuff.
Well, I think because Goldberg is now at the point where he's also with the program of trying to help some people, maybe. Because he did it for Drew, and we all thought he was going to take it from Drew, and now maybe that's kind of Goldberg's whole point here. But then again, with the way this match ended, we'll talk about that. Goldberg does a really good job of not selling MVP's cane shot.
Well, he did sell it.
Eventually, after Bobby Lashley absolutely tore it apart. And to the credit of Goldberg, he sold it like a champ. He sold it like he was legitimately injured. And and it was great. I think that the ref stoppage was perfect to end this match. I thought it was exactly what Bobby Lashley, for the narrative that they're giving for Bobby Lashley, I thought it was exactly what Lashley needed.
It is. And at the same time, I have to give Goldberg credit for doing one thing, and that's being able to act, because I've seen his movies and he's not a very good actor.
No. It's the whole thing here is that I honestly thought that this was fine, and then they did this hurt lock on Goldberg's son, and it made me realize, oh fuck, they're gonna have another one.
I just was not happy about Gabe showing up. It didn't do anything interesting for me.
It didn't really add to the whole thing. It just put a pit of fear in the back of my mind for the next pay-per-view and the next time these two meet, because it means that Goldberg is going to have to get revenge. And I'm really hoping that WWE pulls a swerve and just has Bobby Lashley beat him again.
Right. And I'm not interested in any of this stuff with Goldberg. Thankfully, they did not have him on Raw at all. So
no.
Maybe they're not going to do it.
Thankfully, well, that'd be even better. That'd be great. If they just did a ref stoppage and then they beat up Gage and then they just left it alone forever. That would be great. And then, but the fireman's carry to the knee to the post twice. I loved that. Made Bobby Lashley looked good, which is all that I can hope for, and is probably the best possible outcome, all things considered, for this whole situation.
But if you're not going to have Goldberg get involved at all, why not just beat him?
Well, because I think they're holding out hope that they are going to have another match, and Goldberg is going to beat him, sadly.
And watch it happen in Saudi Arabia, too.
Oh, God, I forgot about the Saudi shows. Oh, Christ. Well, we got one more match, and this one, if you've seen any John Cena matches of the last 5 years, then you have seen this match.
Yes, we have.
It is John Cena versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, and this match was good. Wasn't great. It was good. That's all I got. Because every time I really thought that we might see a little something interesting out of John Cena, and then it just was cookie cutter. It was every John Cena match I've ever seen. Although I liked the stuff at the beginning where Cena tries to go for the 5 moves of doom and Reigns actually stops him, with the shoulder block, and he actually does something, kind of swats him. And the match itself, I didn't really like or care about John Cena's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. It's like I hate when they do that with Brady as well. Even though he's on my team, I hate when it's like, this is the guy's the GOAT. This guy's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. You really can't call him the greatest of all time until they leave. That's the way that I view it. No matter how good somebody is.
First off, the answer is Cena is not the GOAT, because we all know the GOAT is Ric Flair, no matter how much they try to push him. Secondly,
that's my opinion as well. Some others might disagree with that, but that is my opinion as well.
Secondly, if you've seen one John Cena Big Four main event squash match, you've seen all John Cena big main event squash matches.
Yeah.
Not that this wasn't Brock Lesnar versus Cena, because it kind of had shape of that, because Roman was dominating. But John just did the finisher span, and it reminded me of the worst of John Cena matches.
Yeah.
Because the worst John Cena matches are the ones that they repeat themselves over and over and over again.
And it had all of its bad habits.
One time, Huh?
And it had all of its bad habits. It had the calling spots with the camera looking right at John Cena, so you can very clearly tell he's calling a spot. It had the 5-knuckle shuffle where he doesn't even come close to the guy's head. It had all of the things that made people start saying that he can't wrestle, even though he clearly can. It was just monotony. It was cookie cutter. It's a lot of reason why people started getting really bored with Randy Orton. It's just the same flavor.
And then John does the finishers of 3 AAs, including 1 regular AA, which didn't do it, 1 through the announce table, mandatory table spot, and 1 from the second rope, and it didn't work.
And that was it. And then, thankfully, the one redeeming
callback to.
No, go ahead.
And then they did the callback to the end with the Rock, with John Cena mocking Roman Reigns and attempting to do his finisher before he gets hit.
Yeah, and thankfully, all it took was 1 spear. Thankfully,
all it took was
one spear was all it took for Roman Reigns to beat John Cena. Thank God. But I do have to say, it felt a little flat. And I think that WWE knew that. And sadly, I think that they knew that that was probably what they were going to get out of John as well. Even though John is a good, he's good at what he does. It's just we've seen it all before. It's a greatest hits reel from John Cena. And then he had a big.
Honestly, the more interesting match would have been John Cena versus Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, but
imagine if John Cena faced Bobby Lashley, and I know Goldberg faced off against Roman Reigns.
Well, they wanted to do that. They wanted to do Goldberg and Roman Reigns, and they never did. And the reason they didn't is that I think Roman was, he came back because of the pandemic. That was early 2020, and they replaced Roman Reigns with Braun Strowman. And
again, my joke from that time. I know Roman Reigns pulled out of WrestleMania for his health and safety, but are we also sure he didn't pull out for his reputation?
Yeah. Well, that would have been the alternative. But then things picked up because we've got Samurai Brock Lesnar. Learn how to cut a pig in half from a butcher's office, Brock Lesnar.
Well, here comes the pain, and the pain is the Viking Samurai Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and Brock looked badass. I loved Brock's look. And he comes up, and Paul Heyman being, so good at what he does, with just the emoting and the toadying and the fear in his voice and the panic in his voice as Brock Lesnar has come back. And now Paul Heyman is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly. It's one of those things where this excites me. Despite the fact that they've wrestled so much before, there's been some time since they wrestled, and they're completely different characters. I mean, Brock is still Brock, but Roman is doing the best work of his career, and this could be good.
Oh, yeah.
The only problem, do not give Brock Lesnar a microphone.
Yeah, well, here's the interesting thing that's going to happen, I think. I think that we're going to see, my guess is that we're going to see something like they did leading up to Survivor Series 2002. And that was when Brock Lesnar was going to fight the Big Show, who was wearing jeans at that time and had a flat top. Anyway,
lesbian Big Show?
That was indeed the Big Show. And I think that was the only time he wore pants was that time. But in any case, in the weeks leading up to that, the SmackDowns leading up to that, Paul Heyman was telling Brock, listen, Big Show, he's too big. You won't be able to beat him. You can't do it. And I think that's I hope that that's not where they're heading to this, where they're going to have Paul Heyman eventually just betray Roman and go back to Brock. Because right now, Roman Reigns is way too good a heel to turn babyface.
Obviously.
But I'm also afraid that that's what they're going to try to do with this. And that's just for me, that is the main concern with this. But regardless, this was a fun finish to this match. I wish they had shown John Cena getting the piss beaten out of him by Brock Lesnar afterwards. But
I mean, you can still find it.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
And here's my question. How much of this was a reaction to a certain punk showing up in a certain place called Chicago?
I wouldn't be surprised if this was partially reactionary. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they had set this up in the first place once they found, before they found out that Punk was truly coming back. I have a feeling that they probably would have brought Brock in anyway for this moment. And it's hard to say. I think it could very much be either because AEW can't be denied. They have momentum right now. They've got Bryan Danielson coming in soon, and that's going to be big. And now the Punk is going to be wrestling it all out. And by the way, you can make your official announcement here in a second. We will be reviewing AEW All Out on this program, and the reason why is
because CM Punk is wrestling, and because he's wrestling, I have to acknowledge it and I have to watch it.
That's right.
And I hate CM Punk for making me watch AEW.
Well, in all fairness, you will, unless you're going to watch it live on the night, in which case, God bless you, God rest your soul. But if in any case, if you are not doing that and you're watching it afterwards, at least you could skip through the stuff you don't want to watch. Because I will just give you the brief notes.
To give a proper review of the show, I have to watch it live.
Well, maybe the show will actually not be too bad. Maybe the show will not suck. I know what it's going to be. It's going to be a good 2-hour show buried in about 2.5 additional hours of filler.
It's a casino battle royale for the women's division of AEW.
Oh, that's going to be bad. That's going to be real bad.
If the men can't do that match correctly, so what do you make you think the women are going to do it correctly?
Well, look. Well, it's going to be something. It's going to be a wild ride, but we do have a couple weeks before that, right? I think we still have a couple weeks before we're at that point. So we are going to have a regular episode, I think, wedged in between these episodes. So we will be able to do that and get all of that situated and ready for you when that time comes. But until then, what's overall, Sky, what are your thoughts on SummerSlam 2021?
So first off, I apologize for oversleeping and missing half of the show.
You made it for the important parts.
I made it for the important parts. And honestly, that's kind of how SummerSlam was. There were matches that were there. There were matches that were absolute shit. And let's be clear, those matches of absolute shit involved the women's division.
Pretty much all of them, across the board.
But when it came down to it, there was some real good shit. And I hate WWE for this. They have the ability to make a good show, and they don't.
Yeah.
They have to add bad stuff on top of the good stuff to make the good stuff hard to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not the first time they've done this.
But when they do it right, they do it right.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I thought SummerSlam was a great big main event pay-per-view show. And there's excitement for what WWE could possibly do.
Sure.
I mean, you cannot tell me that you're salivating your lips at Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, which apparently was planned to be for WrestleMania, not this year, but the year after.
Wow, WWE hot-shotting the biggest feud that they've got. I'm stunned.
I mean, they could still go for another WrestleMania, and I'd be fine with that. It's just that I wonder what this means about Roman Reigns versus The Rock.
I'm not saying that it won't still happen. It might still happen. I mean, it depends on where they're going for there, and it's can you imagine if we get The Rock and Brock Lesnar?
Okay, no.
They could.
Sorry.
They totally could. Imagine if The Rock beats Brock Lesnar for the world title.
By the way, you haven't even talked about the biggest thing that this show did.
What's that?
They stole from you.
Yes, that's right. Well,
I
glimpsed over it because I was trying to let it go, but I guess because we're bringing it up, because I did, in fact, debut Brock Lesnar, and because I'm going to make the distinction because this is a return in WWE and this was a debut in ACPW. It isn't a direct steal, but I'm going to say that you're on thin ice, WWE. You're on thin ice because I made Brock Lesnar's debut actually valuable and means something as Paul Heyman was prospecting.
I mean, this return was also very important because it's another challenge for Roman Reigns, which, by the way, they keep having this thing of Roman Reigns beating a legend and then having another legend show up right after.
Yeah. Let's see how many legends there are before he runs out of people to beat. But we'll see.
Can we get Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker or Roman Reigns versus Goldberg next after Lesnar?
At this point, anything is possible. I'm waiting for Hogan, man. I'm waiting for Hogan.
No.
I have a feeling.
Anyways, I give this show a 7 out of 10. I thought this was a good show. And I'm looking forward to what WWE does next until they ruin it.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't say it better myself. I actually had a more favorable rating. I gave some sort of wackadoodle number to Josh Geddon, but I really feel like 7.5 deemed it because, yeah, the bad stuff was really bad. But overall, the general tone of this show, there was good stuff peppered in throughout. And that's not always the case. The fact that I thought one of the early matches was the best match on the show, and then other matches were at least comparable in quality, is not something that you can say WWE does very often. And because there weren't as many gimmick matches on this show, because the matches themselves were the gimmick, I think I also had more fun on that basis as well. We didn't get a lot of chairs and ladders and all sorts of like babushki stuff. We're going to save that for Extreme Rules. Are you excited?
No.
Me either. And that's just where we're at. But this was a fun show. And I really did enjoy this show. And I've also enjoyed this live stream, both with you and running solo, SummerSlam 2021. Next week, we've got another show hot off the press for you, and I'm excited to get that going. We are going to live stream. We are going to do that tribute to Bobby Eaton because I've been sitting on that, and I want to still watch that match. And so we are still going to do that live stream reaction as a Bobby tribute
video. We'll
video.
probably do it next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, because I'm going to be actually away for most of this week taking care of business every day, taking care of business every way, taking care of business. It's all mine, taking care of business and working overtime workout. So I'm going to be doing that, but we will figure out as the schedule goes on. You'll be hearing from us. Don't you worry. Any last words, Skylar?
So here's the question. With AEW building momentum and WWE having a good show, are we in the process of seeing a change in wrestling?
I hope so, but I'm not going to count my chickens yet. I think it's too early to tell. Things are cooking up, but I don't think they've reached a boil.
Right. It's just one of those things where it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, but watch what's going on because my expectations are tempered given these companies' history. Yeah, exactly. We're going to be getting things are heating up, but it's only heating up in the capacity of modern professional wrestling. So we got to take that much off the top for whatever it's worth. But in any case, it's interesting to see WWE strikes back. How will AEW respond? We'll find out. But until then, thank you very much for joining us on this live stream review reaction video to SummerSlam 2021. And we will be right back right after this short commercial break.